Hi, everybody. Jamie here. Happy New Year. It's January 1st, 2014. And in my world, that's the beginning of financial aid season. So, this is going to be a broad overview of the entire financial aid process. And then I'm going to go back and do more detailed presentations on certain areas, which I will let you know later. So, it's amazing how fast time goes by. And so those of you who are parents of the class of 2014, you know how stressful this time of year is anyway, and now we get to add financial aid on top of it. So I wanted to make sure that the most important part, that the kids have their stuff done. So you need to make sure that your student has submitted all their college applications. There's anything else that they needed to submit, like their transcripts, teacher evaluations, all that stuff, I highly recommend that you check the status of all applications. And you can check that in the Common App, or normally if the kids apply to the college, they'll give them a login into their account. You can check in there. And also, a lot of kids have already found out whether they've been admitted and whether they've gotten scholarship money. So you can always go into the Family Connection and update all of your, replies, whether they've gotten deferred or whether they've gotten accepted and things like that. I do them as you call them into me, and you can always log in to look at them. But you're more than welcome to go in and do it. And a big thing that kids don't ever do is check their email or their college accounts. And that's really important because colleges are not tweeting out all of the information, which is how kids are getting stuff that these days, by tweeting or texting. So the kids really need to understand that they need to check their email or their college account to see if there's anything that's missing or anything they need to be done, or if they've just got really great news in there. Okay. Another important thing is, now that the semester is over, you need to have your high school guidance counselor go into the Common App and mail in or transmit the mid-year report, which is an updated transcript with this 7th semester of grades. So the only one we have left is the 8th semester, and you don't need to worry about sending the final report until after the end of this year, and you will only have your guidance counselor send it to the one university where your student's going to attend. So first of all, you need to make sure that all the little details of the admissions process are finished. And since now we know that the colleges are going to get a final transcript or a mid-year report, you've got to keep the kids from getting senioritis, because colleges do have the ability to unadmit a student. And I've been in business since, like 15, 16 years, and I've had it happen to one of my students, and it was at Clemson. And he just totally lost it second semester, and they unadmitted him in June. It was just a crazy time. But the kids need to understand that, yes, they can be unadmitted. And if you think about it, a college is not even going to consider a student for financial aid until they know they've been through the admissions office. So part of what we've got to get done is get through the admissions office first, and then we can move on to financial aid. To be honest with you, I think the financial aid component is way too complicated for your student to do. So I feel it's definitely a parent part of the process. So for the next 60 days, we're going to focus on, helping you as parents get through this financial aid process, which can be extremely confusing. I just don't think the kids have a good grasp of tax filing, your tax forms. It's just so totally over their head. I just think this is a parental part. So when we start talking about how you're going to pay for this, I always tell everybody that until we know that a student's admitted, until we know they have the ability to stay in college, and until we know that you won't be broke by the time we get out, we can't really figure out where they're going to school. So now we've got all the application stuff filled out and sent in, and hopefully they've got all their scholarship stuff filled out and sent in. So now we've got to look for money. And there are only 5 places to look for money for college. First and foremost, the federal government. Second of all, state government. Third, the colleges and universities themselves. 4, outside scholarships. And 5, out of mom and dad's pocket, which is where we don't want it to come from. So since this is going to be just a broad overview, I'm going to break down all 5 areas, and then later in a different screencast, I will go more in depth into the other ones. So let's start first with the federal government. The first thing you have to do is fill out the FAFSA form, which stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And you can find it at www.fafsa.ed.gov. And if you click the link in this presentation, it will take you there. There are a lot of other sites out there that will mirror the FAFSA that ask you to pay. If you look in the title, it says free application, so you should not have to go online and pay to submit this form. If you do, if it does ask you for a credit card, you are totally in the wrong place. So make sure that you are at fafsa.ed.gov. The FAFSA becomes online today, January 1st, 2014. So if you had gone on and filled out a FAFSA form, which I know a couple of my parents had done thinking they were filling out the FAFSA forecaster, you had actually filled out the FAFSA form for this current academic year. So the FAFSA for next academic year for 2014-2015 did not become available until today. And I will be honest with you, normally about the first week, there's a lot of glitches in the system, and we have just learned that we give it 4 or 5 days before we attempt to log in there and do anything, because otherwise you just get in the middle of all their mess. So I just would give it a few days and then start working on it, okay? Now, only the federal government would do something so stupid as to open up the FAFSA for January 1st, 2014, and they want 2013 tax information. And I think this is where a lot of people miss out on money for college, because they don't really get the fact that you can use your 2012 tax return as an estimate until you get your 2013 return completed. Now, if your return is simple and you can get it filled out and submitted really fast, I highly advise you to do that, because now with the IRS data retrieval, it's so much easier to do your FAFSA once you've got your tax return done. But if you're like most people and your tax return is complicated, then it's easy to solve. Just use your 2012 when you do your FAFSA, mark it as an estimate, and when you actually get your 2013 1040 completed and submitted, you have to give it a couple weeks to let it process. Then you can log back into your FAFSA, do an update, and then draw in your IRS, use your IRS data retrieval tool and pull your actual figures back in. And that's how I highly recommend to do it, especially this for freshman year. You're really under the gun to get your tax return done extremely early, because if you think about it, colleges are going to do the incoming freshman financial aid offers first. So that's how come I think that it's really important for you to get your tax return done, especially early just this year. After that, you're fine to go all the way to April 15th, because then the colleges will still be worried about the freshmen and you'll be a sophomore, junior, senior. So you have a little bit more time. But especially this year, you need to really talk to your tax professional, or if you do it yourself on TurboTax or some other program like that, to really get your tax return done. So if you think that it's hard for me to get kids to fill out their admission applications and their essays, it's worse to get parents to fill out their financial aid forms. So please don't procrastinate this, because there's always something that happens with the transmittal of it. Something may happen in the process. It may not clear through the Social Security Administration, and you definitely do not want to miss a deadline. So it's really important that you get your tax return done. So right now, if that's what you want to be working on, that's what I would do. Okay? Now, first thing I need to tell you about the FAFSA form is you need to remember that this is the student's form. It's not your form. So when you log in to start filling it out, you wouldn't believe how many parents I have that start filling out the form and fill it out in their name. You need to make sure that you're in the correct section. There's a student section and there's a parent section. Make sure that you know what section you're working in, because it's going to ask you for student tax information and their tax return and their assets. And it's also going to ask you for parent income tax and assets. And so make sure that you are working in the correct part of the form. And I'll delve more into that when I actually get into step-by-step filling out the FAFSA. Also, remember, if you have more than one student in college, you have to file a FAFSA form for each student. And this is another area I think where parents miss out on money, because they may say, okay, well, my first student, I filled out the FAFSA and I didn't get anything, so why should I bother? Well, when you have more than one student in college, a lot of times that may increase the amount of aid that you're eligible for. So, I mean, my feeling is that if you have a kid in college, I would file a FAFSA for them every year, whether you feel you're going to get anything or not. I can tell you this, colleges love people that don't fill out the FAFSA form, because then they know they don't have to give you anything. So I have people say, oh, I don't qualify for anything. You know, it's not your call. It's a financial aid officer's call whether you do or don't qualify. But I can tell you this, if you don't fill out the paperwork, you're not going to get anything. So to me, it's your hard-earned tax money. Financial aid is not a hand-me-down or a gimme. And you need to do anything that you can to get the most money possible for college. Okay, first thing you need to do is apply for PIN numbers. And you've got to understand you need 2 PIN numbers. You need one for your student and one for the parent. Now, you as a parent, if you've already filled out a FAFSA form for another child, or if you actually yourself have applied for aid, you've already got a PIN number, and it's the same one. So you can just go out. I'll show you that in a different presentation too for applying for a PIN, but you can go out and you may have to reactivate it, but you've already got a PIN. Your information has to match exactly when you apply for a PIN through the Social Security Administration. So in families, I always tell families, nothing against the moms, but I would highly recommend that you apply for a PIN under the father's name. I mean, as long as we don't have like a single parent. If it's a single mom, you know, you have to use it. But where women change their names or hyphenate their names, it is so hard to get a PIN number through the Social Security Administration. So normally with men, they've not changed their names, and so it's much easier. So I highly recommend in a family, nothing against the ladies, but to use the PIN number for the dad. It's just so much easier that way and make your life a lot less complicated. You need to make sure you keep your PINs and your password in a safe place. I actually used to do the FAFSA forms as part of my service. But when the federal government came out and makes you sign that you will not disclose your PIN number to anyone, it made it really impossible for us to do that. So we're more than happy to help you do it. We just cannot submit it anymore. Okay? So make sure that you apply for your PIN. You could go ahead and do that now. It takes about 3 days for it to fully process. So I would go ahead and apply for your PIN numbers. Now let's talk about divorced parents. It's such a confusing and touchy subject about who do we file under, whether we file under the mom or the dad. You got to realize that in financial aid, they don't care so much about biological parents as much as they do where the student lives. So in the case of divorced parents, the FAFSA should be filed under the parent with which the student lives more than 50% of the time during their base year. And their base year is the calendar year of 2013. So from January 1st of their junior year to December 31st of their senior year is their base year. So whoever they lived with more. So if you've got like joint custody where the kids spend 50-50, you know, it's your call. I would pick the family that has the least income. That only makes sense. That won't work if you've got, you know, if you live in Charleston, West Virginia, and your ex-husband lives in North Carolina, and the student graduates from a West Virginia high school, then there's no doubt about it. More than 50% of the time, they're with you. So you're going to have to file under you. It always is such a sticky situation when one of the parents has gotten remarried. And you would not believe how many times I've heard my husband says, those are not my kids. It doesn't matter. You don't get to use my income. And I'll be honest with you, you don't have any choice. The minute that you get remarried, whether you're the husband or whether you're the wife, that your new spouse's income is automatically included in your income and assets. So that has in the past knocked quite a few of my parents out of getting need-based aid, but just be aware of that. So if one of the parents is divorced and remarried, the new spouse's income and assets are included in the FAFSA calculation, and there is nothing you can do about that. Trust me, everybody's tried. Okay, so that's the federal government. You have to fill out the FAFSA form. Let's go on to state government. We are going to concentrate just on West Virginia in this presentation, mainly because the majority of my kids are in West Virginia. However, I do have kids from all around the country, so if you want to check your own state's higher website or get with me, later, or Debbie will be more than happy to help you figure out if there's anything else for your particular state. Like Georgia has the Hope Scholarship, whereas West Virginia has the Promise Scholarship. And so, you have states that have their own type of aid. So you want to check the state with which you live. We are very lucky in West Virginia that the FAFSA automatically downloads to West Virginia Higher Ed. And since the FAFSA is one of the qualifying pieces for the Promise Scholarship, that's very good. You don't have to do an extra step to send your FAFSA form to the state of West Virginia. On the fafsa.ed.gov, there's a place where you can click to see if your state does an automatic download. Most of them do now. In the past, they didn't, but most of them do now. So we're going to concentrate on what you have to do to get aid through the state of West Virginia. First of all, the FAFSA has to be received to the state of West Virginia by March 1st, 2014 to qualify for the Promise Scholarship. Now realize it doesn't make much sense that the Promise Scholarship is a merit-based scholarship program, and you have to fill out the FAFSA form, which is a need-based aid form, to get it as one of the qualifying pieces. But that's how the legislation's written, and so that's how we have to do it. You do not have to file the FAFSA in future years to retain the promise. So the FAFSA is only to trigger it the first year, and then after that, if you don't want to file the FAFSA, you don't have to keep the promise. However, as I said previously, if I were you, I would always file the FAFSA. So I'm going to recommend that you have your FAFSA form filed by February 15th, just to make sure there are no problems with the transmission to the state of West Virginia. Remember, everything has to go through the Social Security Administration, and that's where it gets kind of hairy and getting through the Social Security Administration. So just try to have your FAFSA submitted by February 15th. Remember, you can file it as an estimate and go back and update it. And so don't get to the point where you get so focused on it that it has to be the one and the final one, because you have the ability to go back in and update it whenever you would like. So just try to get it done by February 15th. Okay? Students have to fill out a separate Promise Scholarship application. And that application is through www.cfwv.com. Most of the kids now are doing that at their high school. And what they do is they have a tendency to pull the kids out of class and then have them do it in class. You need to make sure that those kids, that you get a copy of your confirmation receipt that the Promise application was filed. So if your student's already done it, and at least hopefully they had it emailed to their email, and kids don't rarely check their email, please find a copy of that confirmation and keep it. That's so important, because what happens is the award letters for Promise normally go out around May 1st, and invariably there's an issue with Promise, and then it's normally just a glitch, happens every year, but you just really need to make sure that you've got the application. And if you can't find it, hopefully the guidance counselors will be able to give it to you, but it's just one thing I highly recommend, that you actually have a confirmation for your records. Okay? Now, I have a lot of kids and parents who will say, well, we know for sure that he or she's going out of state to college, and we don't even want to fool with Promise Scholarship. Well, there's a couple things you need to think about. First of all, you can trigger Promise and be awarded the scholarship, which I think is very nice because, the governor recognizes them. They put their names in the paper. And in the past, I've had kids whose parents they didn't want to do it and have said later they regretted it because a lot of other kids were like, man, you didn't qualify for the Promise Scholarship. What's wrong with you? And so they were embarrassed by it. And so that's one reason. The second thing is the kids can go out of state for up to a full year and come back and keep their Promise Scholarship. And kids have a tendency to change their mind. Things happen in the household with finances, and it's always really nice if the kids do decide to come back home to keep that Promise Scholarship. So for me, I think everybody should trigger it. Now, there is this weird myth that goes around that if it's a major that's not offered in our state, that you can take Promise outside of West Virginia. And what people are referring to is the academic common market. And what that means is the kids can go out of state and get in-state tuition at that university, but you can't take Promise. So hear me now. I'm going to repeat it. You cannot take the Promise Scholarship outside the boundaries of West Virginia for any reason. The only West Virginia money that I know of that can be taken outside the boundaries of West Virginia is the West Virginia Higher Education Grant, and it can be taken to Pennsylvania. We do have reciprocity with Pennsylvania, but that's low-income, higher education grant money, and that's the only thing that I know of that can be taken across state lines. So a lot of people really have this in their head that, okay, I'm going out of state for architecture or marine biology because we don't have it in West Virginia, and I can take Promise. No, you can't. So sometimes maybe you can get the outside universities to match your Promise Scholarship, but that's up to them. Now, if a student does go outside the boundaries of West Virginia and does want to return to go back to school here to keep their Promise Scholarship, they still have to meet all of the requirements. So they still would have had to have their 30 hours of credit and maintain the 2.75 GPA for the first year. And if they don't, they may have to make it up during summer school, and that includes kids for in-state. So you need to make sure that you know your renewal qualifications for Promise for next year. There are also some other scholarships for the state of West Virginia, the Science, Engineering, Technology Scholarship, Smith Underwood Teachers Grant. There's a few of them. They're listed at cfwv.com, and they are normally due by March 1st. So please log in there and make sure that you know about those. This is the place that I think most people miss out on money for college, and that's money from the colleges and universities themselves. This is where the majority of money comes from in the college financial aid process, I think. And so this is what we've been doing for the last 6 weeks with the kids on Sundays. We've been doing scholarship opportunities where the kids have to go out and check their college's websites to see if there's anything else they need to do to apply for scholarships. Now, colleges have two types of scholarships. They have guaranteed and they have competitive. Most of the guaranteed scholarships are listed on their website. So like at West Virginia University, the Mountaineer Scholarship, the Shenandoah Scholarship, and it will say, if you've got this GPA, this test score, you get this amount of scholarship money. That's a guaranteed scholarship, and normally that is triggered with the student's admission application. Then you have competitive scholarships, such as the Yeager Scholarship at Marshall University, the Buckalew Foundation Scholarship at West Virginia University, the Johnson Scholarship at Washington and Lee, the Jefferson Scholarship at University of Virginia. Most colleges will have a competitive scholarship, and they usually will require a separate application, which is what we were looking for to make sure that you didn't miss any deadlines. So please, please, please go check your deadlines. Most of them, the latest will be January 15th. So just make sure that you don't have anything missing. And then you've got to understand that some of these scholarships may require an additional letter of recommendation or any additional material such as a resume, and they will definitely require an essay. And I'm telling you, the kids go into the meltdown mode when you tell them they have to write more essays. And that's why a lot of kids will not get scholarships. They will not write the essays. I sit them down in my office and just like say, write the essays. So good luck to you if you can get your kids to write the essays, because they really hate writing them, and will not apply for scholarships if they have to write too large of an essay. So just realize that they're going to have to write essays. You have to really be a good detective in order to find college scholarships, because it seems to me like colleges are getting more notorious for burying their scholarship applications somewhere on the website. And I sit in there at my computer with the kids, and I'm like, okay, I've been in business doing this for 15 years, and I know what I'm looking for, and I can't find it, and they switch everything around. It drives me crazy. How would they ever expect a 17-year-old kid who doesn't have much of an attention span anyway to sit and dig through all this? So it may be that you need to help the kids, because I'll be honest with you, it does get to the point where it becomes very frustrating trying to find the applications, and then how do you do it? And oh, this is last year's application, and where's this year's application, and did they change the requirements? And it just becomes very bothersome. Okay, now while you are on all the colleges' websites, if I were you, I would click the college's financial aid page to determine what forms they require. Most of the colleges, if not all the colleges, are, except the academies, the Air Force Academy, the Naval Academy, things like that, they don't require the FAFSA form. They won't take it because they're tuition free, and getting the ends of the hard part. But some schools will require a separate form called the CSS profile form in addition to the FAFSA form, and that mainly your highly selective private schools, although some of the public schools now are doing it. So it's through the College Board, and I've given you the link here that you can click on, and it's very lengthy, and it's much more complicated than the FAFSA, and it becomes very frustrating because they'll ask you for last year's information, current year's information, and then a projection for next year, and it seems like they ask the same question 2 or 3 times, 2 or 3 different ways, so it becomes very bothersome for parents. And some of the information you may need to seek help from your financial aid, not your financial aid advisor, but from your financial advisor to help you if you don't know the answers. Now, Debbie's been doing them for years at my place, and as well as I can help you. So if you need any help on your CSS profile form, please get with us, and we'll be more than happy to help you out on that. All right. And so now we're moving on to outside scholarships, which is the 4th place to look for money. And this is like the big buzz. You hear a lot of people say, oh, there's billions of dollars of scholarship money out there that nobody claims. Well, in reality, outside scholarships only account for 2% of all financial aid. So that's how come I want the kids to get their applications done first to trigger the majority of their scholarships. Then second of all, work on the scholarship applications for the universities. And now this time of year, they feel free to fill out outside scholarships, which those of you who are my clients, I've been sending out a lot of scholarship stuff that they could be working on. And to be honest with you, I've found that outside scholarships, it's got to be a topic that the kids are interested in. Like I put out that zombie apocalypse scholarship, and when I did it, I was like, parents will probably think I'm crazy, but I'm telling you, just about every kid that I had, they were so excited to fill out that scholarship. But if I put out one called We the People, where they have to write about something, only my kids that are interested in politics or history would even remotely attempt that. So I have found in the past that it's got to be a scholarship topic that flips their switch. And if they like it, they will do it and write the essays. If not, it's like pulling teeth to try to get them to do it. So therefore, there are ones that I think are really great, like the Coca-Cola Scholarship, which is due really early, October 31st. That was the first one that was due really early. And then all of my students, I would recommend to do the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation, which I have here, the tgkvf.org. I think that application is due January 15th. So those are a couple that you can do, but you really want to make sure the kids have their college applications and their other scholarships for the schools filled out first, because they do normally have to write additional essays. And as I said before, sometimes that just does not happen. Now, lastly, out of mom and dad's pocket, which is where we don't want it to come from. The federal government will offer parent and student loans to cover the remaining out-of-pocket costs due after the college's formal financial aid offer. So on the FAFSA form, there's a place where you click that if you're interested in loans. If I were you, I would go ahead and trigger them because you don't have to accept them. But if something happens that, financially you need the money, it's already in place. So I would check that I was interested in loans, and then if you choose not to do them, then you don't have to. Once you fill out your FAFSA form, the CSS profile, any other financial aid forms the colleges require, you send it all out. Then like the month of March is just a long, cold month where everybody's waiting to get their financial aid offers. They normally come out around April 1st. And if you want to scan them or fax them over to me, I'll put it in a worksheet and give you a net out of pocket, bottom line, what it's going to cost at each of the schools your kids apply to. Now, let me tell you this. It's amazing how many people cannot read their financial aid offers. And colleges do them differently. Sometimes they will include the loans in the amount, and it'll say, your financial aid letter says, this is how much it costs to come here to college, and here's how we're offering you to pay for it. And if the cost of attendance is $40,000 and they've given you $40,000 of aid and they've included the parent loan, student loan, it's amazing how many people call me and go, we got a free ride to college. I'm like, no, you didn't, because part of it is loans that you're going to have to pay back. So sometimes it becomes very confusing to sort through your financial aid award letters. So if you want to send them over to us, we will do them. If you want to do them yourself, the worksheet that I use is loaded into the Family Connection under Document Library under Financial Aid. So you can feel free to download it to your computer, and it's easy. You can fill in the blanks. It just separates out gift money, what's free that you don't have to pay back, versus self-help like student loans, work study, and then it'll give you a net out of pocket. So I at least do use my accounting degree for something to say, this is how much it costs to apply for college, and here's how, bottom line at each one of the universities. And then you all can go home and sit down over the kitchen table and make an educated decision. I swear to you, I do not care where my kids go to college as long as it's the right fit for them academically, socially, emotionally, athletically, and as long as it's a good fit for your pocketbook. I truly am happy. 55% of my kids last year stayed in state, which is really amazing because in the past, my market has been kids who predominantly want to go out of the state of West Virginia. But with the crash of 2009 and colleges tightened up their belt, and it's just ridiculously expensive for you all to put your kids through college. So it doesn't matter to me whether they go to West Virginia State or whether they go to Harvard or Southern West Virginia Community College. I'm not in it for the glory of me, although I do put their names and their colleges on the website. I do that actually more for the kids. They love that. It doesn't matter. So a lot of parents will pick an expensive place to send their kids, and some will pick the least expensive, and that's a family decision. I'm not the one writing the check. So that's the only way you can figure out how to do it, though. You've really got to analyze your financial aid offers. And then that may leave you room for negotiations. It's not nearly as much room for negotiations as there used to be, but you could always try to get more money out of another university with an offer from a different school. Really, to be honest with you, it will depend on if they actually need the kids or not. So anyway, if you are interested in that, we can have a personal conversation about that, but just realize it really helps to have your worksheet taken care of. Now, Debbie is available to help you all with any of your financial aid forms. I mean, she's been with me for years. She worked in the student loan department at BB&T. She knows them very well, and she's a whole lot easier to get into than to get on my schedule. So to make an appointment with her, click Private Appointments from the online appointment scheduler, then click College Planning, and then click Financial Aid Assistance. It should not charge you for that because you're one of my clients. If you're listening to this broadcast and you're not one of my clients, my college planning clients, you can do financial aid by the hour, and you will just have to log in under financial aid and then click financial aid assistance, and it's $65 an hour, or you can buy it in a discounted package, and you can make your appointments that way. Please make an appointment with me now for the month of April so we can go over your final decisions. My calendar will totally fill up with all of my seniors trying to get in. And when people wait till the last minute, all I hear is, we can't get in with you. Well, people that plan ahead, get in. So you can make your appointments up to, June. So if you want to get in February, March, April, May, June, right now, go online and make your appointment. You're better off to, go ahead and do it early than try to get in. Although Debbie is very good about working a cancellation list. And now from this online appointment scheduler, you can put yourself on the wait list. So if you want to get in earlier, you can electronically do it. It notifies us. And if somebody has cancellation, then we have the ability to call and get you in earlier. So I do know that my calendar fills up. And especially now in January, most at the semester ends, a lot of my kids are coming in to bring their grades and their test scores, my juniors predominantly, because my seniors were kind of done with for a while. But parents will be coming in for financial aid. So my calendar is going to fill up, and there's no way I can get around it. I only got enough hours in the day. And so please, please go ahead and make your appointment now. All right, I thank you for listening. I'm going to do a lot more of these how-to projects and put them on my website. So if you have any questions, please contact me and go jamedickenson.com. Send us an email, call us. We got voicemail, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, live help. I don't know how many ways you can get hold of us, but there's a lot. So thank you. Have a happy new year and happy financial aid.